Hey, Paul, I appreciate the chance we have to get together today. I don't know if there's anything we have that'll help you, but I'll go through the areas that we work. Areas such as increasing cash flow, decreasing debt, reducing taxes. We also specialize in life insurance and annuities, and how that could possibly shave years off your potential retirement date. After that, if there's an interest on your part, I'll gather some information. I'll gather some information and we'll go over and get into specifics. But for now, there's nothing to buy, so just sit back and relax. I work with Ancora Financial, a national company with more than 70 offices nationwide. Uh, we work with several insurance companies and financial institutions, many of which worth billions of dollars, many of which have been in business for more than 100 years. And what we do is we teach people about money, how it works, and how to make it work better for you. Specifically, our goal is one thing: to help people become financially independent. What that means is the interest you're earning on your money you've got put away replaces what you're making now from your business or salary. At that point, you don't have to work anymore. You might choose to, but you don't have to. That's financial independence. Now, would you like to know how to get there the soonest? Okay, great. That's where I'm headed. Now, first, I'd like to go over the issues and challenges that face us today, and then I'll go through the solutions. Look at the last 10 years. Incomes have risen, yes, but living expenses keep going up and up. And for many Americans, that's a real problem. There's no way you can keep up with the cost of housing, food, utilities, stuff like that. So what happens is people tend to get into debt. Lack of security steps in, poor saving habits ensue, and that creates some real problems. So here's my point. If we had 100 people in the room here today that are turning 65 and ready to retire, how many of them do you think would be financially secure? That's a good answer. Actually, the number is seven. 7 out of 100. So what happens to the other 93? Well, we find they fall into three categories. One, some rely on family, some rely on charity, social programs, and some, which is probably the majority, they're still working. Look at all the seniors working at Walmart. Now, the solutions are, now here are the solutions. We work in key areas involving 7 steps to help build your financial future. We weave these steps together and help increase your cash flow, decrease debt, and reduce taxes. And so now, step one is inspect what to expect. In order to have more money for your future dreams, you need to know where your money's going now. Part of understanding how money works and how money works better for you is to know where your money goes. Now there are tools out there such as QuickBooks and other ones you find on the internet that help you track your earnings and expenditures so you can inspect what to expect. The goal here is to free up extra money you didn't know you had. And you can put that money to pay your debt or to put toward your future goals and dreams. Step two is increasing cash flow. Now, we see cash flow as monthly cash flow is whatever earnings come in each month minus bills and expenses. And what's left over is your monthly cash flow. Now, we work with companies that specialize in increasing your cash flow by reducing the cost of servicing your debts. So now let me ask you a question. Do you get a tax refund at the end of the year, or do you owe taxes? Okay, that's interesting you say that. Uh, I was with a guy last week, and he told me he was getting 3,000 back. So I said to him, "So you're telling me that you allow the government, you give the government $3,000 of your money to hold on to, and then at the end of the year, they give it back to you with 0% interest?" And the guy looked at me and he said, "You know what? That doesn't make any sense." And it doesn't. There are ways to take that money as it's being earned and put it back into your budget to earn more money for you instead of the government. Okay. Now, step 3 is eliminating debt. And if you look at this chart here, uh, this is a current client, and they accumulated $190,000 in debt between mortgage, auto loan, credit card, and store credit card. Now, under their current plan, if they pay the same payment every month, they'll be out of debt 26.8 years. But by using the debt eliminator plan, you make the same, they could be out of debt in 13.1 years. You make the same monthly payments, same amount of no refinancing, but you're out of debt in 13.1 years, and possibly have a $500,000 in savings for retirement. Okay, now step 4 is a biggie as well. Step 4 is about creating an emergency fund. And what I find is most people don't have one. So when an emergency comes up, out comes the plastic. Uh, here's the point. Have you ever tried to build an emergency fund in a checking account? No, it never happens. The money's fair game. It'll get spent. It's out of sight, out of mind. So what we encourage is a separate account, such as now a sound emergency fund has 4 factors. 1, it has to be safe. 2, it's got to be liquid. 3, has to get a better rate of return than a checking account. And 4, let's be separate and systematic. Okay? Now, what we encourage is you get a separate account, such as a money market, where you can have the money drafted from your checking account, say $50 a month, as an example, and have it taken out every month, the same day, every month. And then when something happens, you have the money. And not only keeps your credit card balances at 0, but it also helps prevent you from dipping into your retirement savings as well. It's simple, it's powerful, and it works. All right, step 5 is about protecting what you have. Now, by utilizing life insurance to protect against loss of life, you protect against loss of income. Now, it's pretty devastating. Mom and dad, they have 3 kids. Suddenly, dad's gone. It's devastating, right? And when dad's gone, so is his income. So now you have to pay the mortgage, food, utility bills, car payments, and stuff. So, getting set up with the proper amount of life insurance will help you immensely paying those bills. Here we do things a little bit different. We look at a person's financial needs and then bring back options that will help save people money, increase cash flow, and helping with proper life insurance to replace income. Now, step 6 is the biggest one. And if you'll listen to me, it could change the quality of your life. Step 6 is about building long-term income and long-term savings. This is the one everybody likes the best. Now, Paul, there's two elements at play here. Two financial battles you have to win in order to win the money game. Because if you don't incorporate these, now can I be strong with you? The chances of you being financially independent may not happen. And if it does, it's way out there. So the two financial battles you have to win are the inflation battle, we'll see why in a minute, and the tax battle. Because it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Taxes will hurt you if you're not careful. First, let's talk about inflation. Have you heard of the Rule 72? Okay, I'll explain it to you. It's really interesting. It's also known as the rule of compounding interest. What you do is you take the interest rate you're saving at, say 4%, make it easy. Divide that number into 72. And it tells you how many years it'll take for your money to double. Now 4 into 72 is 18. So it'll take 18 years for your money to double. Now here's an example. Let's say you had $100 in a savings account getting 4%. Now in 18 years it doubles to 200. 36 years it doubles to 400. Now here's the problem. 36 years from now, will $400 buy what $100 buys today? Probably not. Now here's the problem. Money is growing, but inflation is growing much quicker. People are losing purchasing power. They may never retire. That's a big, big problem. Now the solution is to potentially get a better interest rate. Let's say you could get 6 to 12% instead of 4. When you have greater financial independence, absolutely. So now you can't win the rate of return and the rate of return in inflation battle and forget about taxes. In fact, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to give you an example that'll shock you on how important it is to employ both the rate of return in inflation battle and the tax battle. Let's say 30 years ago, there was a guy, 30 years old, he went to the bank and he asked the banker what he needed to save to have $1 million by the time he was 60. So the banker did his calculations and came back and said to the guy, well, we have a CD getting 5%, and you have to contribute $1,639.29 a month for 30 years, and you'll have your $1 million. Well, the guy was thoroughly discouraged. He walked out of the bank and never saved a dime. And yes, he's a greeter at Walmart. You've seen him, right? Now, what if we could teach him how to win these two battles, the rate of return battle and the tax battle? Let's win one at a time. First, what if we could have helped him grow his money at 10% instead of 5%? Look at how it drops this number. It's $900 a month. Now, granted, not a lot of people can afford that, but it's $700 less, just by changing the interest rate. Now, what if we helped him save that money where it can't be taxed while it grows? So with tax deferral, look at this. It goes down to $439 a month. Now, you know people that could put away $439 a month, Paul. Hey, you could do that, right? You're blowing that. See, it's not about having $10,000. It's about putting away what you can on a monthly basis and getting a decent rate of return. And if you will save for you, there may be a time when you will not be out earning your money, but your money is out earning you. So this is really cool. Now, uh, the big question is, where can I get a better rate of return and yet have the protection of principal where I'm not guaranteed not to lose money? Well, there's three different strategies. I'm going to give you a synopsis of each one, and then you tell me which one makes the most sense for you. So I know what's suitable for you when we get back together in 2 or 3 days. First is the fixed approach, where you get a guaranteed fixed rate. Say, uh, now you get a guaranteed rate, maybe 1%, probably less, which is risky because of inflation. Now, the other end of the spectrum is the stock market, where you have the potential for high gains, and you also have a great risk of losing your money, which a lot of people have because it's been pretty dicey lately. Now, the third approach is the index strategy, where I see it as a combination of the two because you know you're guaranteed not to lose money, and yet you participate in the gains of the S&P 500 stock index. Now, have you heard of that S&P 500 stock index? Okay, I'll explain it to you in a minute. Uh, so you're guaranteed, so that the index strategy, with the index strategy, participate in the gains of the S&P 500, but not the losses. So of these three strategies, which one makes the most sense for you? Okay, the index strategy. Okay, yeah, that's a very popular strategy, and I'll uh, I'll go into specifics of products, floors, and caps, and some more specifics. But let me give you an overview of the index strategy so you'll know how the index crediting works. The index, the index strategy is linked to the S&P 500 index does up to a cap, 12%. So you have the protection of principle. You have protection of principle against law, unless against market loss. So uh, you heard of the S&P 500, right? That's 500 of the most widely held companies in the country, representing 100 industry groups, such as technology, healthcare, utilities, and more. And and keep in mind that the S&P 500 has averaged almost 10% a year for the last 25 years. So if you had invested in the index strategy 25 years ago, you'd be pretty happy, wouldn't you? Yeah, so put the be- one of the best ways to win the rate of return and inflation battle is to get potentially higher growth. Okay, but you can't win the rate of return and inflation battle and forget about taxes. In fact, I'm going to give you an example that'll shock you on how important it is to employ both the rate of return and tax battle. Now, look at this. Let's say there was a 30-year-old guy went to the bank 30 years ago, and he asked the banker, I need to know how much money I have to save in order to have $1 million by the time I'm 60. Well, they had CDs get 5% back then. And so the banker came back and he said to the guy, all right, now, You have to contribute $1,639.29 a month for 30 years, and you'll have your million. Well, the guy was thoroughly disgusted. He walked out of the bank and never saved a dime, and he's a greeter at Walmart. Now, what if we could have showed him how to win these two battles, the rate of return battle and the tax battle? Let's win one at a time. Now, look at this. Here's $1,639.29 at 5%. Now, what if he could have gotten 10% instead of 5? Now, look at how it drops that number. It's amazing. $900. Now, granted, not a lot of people can afford $900, but it's $700 less than this just by changing the interest rate. Now, what if we could have showed him how to how to avoid paying taxes while his money grows? So with tax deferral, look at this. It drops that number down to clear down to $439. Now you know people that can afford $439, right, Paul? Hey, you could do that. You're blowing that. See, the key is it's not about having $10,000. It's about putting away what you can on a monthly basis, getting a decent rate of return with the protection of principal where you're guaranteed not to lose money and avoid paying taxes while it grows. So, uh, so now step 7 is about estate planning, and you have a lawyer that helps you with estate planning. No, okay. Well, we recommend you could get a lawyer that specializes in estate planning, or you get there are companies out there that help you fill out documentation for simple estates. You could get one of them too. It's very important to have a will, living will, uh, power of attorney, that type of thing. You ever remember the story about that lady Terry Schiavo several years ago? She was incapacitated, and the whole world argued over what should happen to her. Just imagine the heartache it would have saved that family if she would have had a simple living will. So it's very important that you have a will. Okay, Paul. Now those are the 7 steps. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, isn't it? All right. Now, of those 7 steps, between increasing cash flow, reducing debt, and between increasing cash flow, eliminating debt, develop an emergency fund, and life insurance protection, building long-term financial savings, and estate planning. If you had to pick two out of those 7, which two would you pick? Okay, that's a great answer. Now, let me tell you what we do. What we do is we do a financial needs analysis, where in a second I'll ask you a few questions. And so, so I'll ask you a few questions where we can find out what your short and mid-term goals are and where you're headed. And then I'll bring this back to the office where we have a very sophisticated software program, and we could design a plan specifically for you. Now, this is very important. The information I bring back to you will only be as accurate as the information we put in. So work with me here because we're talking about your life. Now, with that in mind, uh, do you plan on making any purchases in the next 2 or 3 year major purchases? Next 2 or 3 years? Okay. And now I take the trade. And what's your mortgage? You have a car payment, you have credit cards, stuff like that. Well, Paul, this is going to be awesome. You've got 400 hours a month to work with. This is going to be great, Paul. When we get back together in 2 or 3 days, you're going to have a crystal clear picture of how and when you're going to meet your goals and dreams. And when you're going to, this is going to be awesome, and you're going to love it. And you're going to owe me big. And now it's important. And this is important. I'm going to spend a little time on it because I know you're serious. But it's important that we build on what we talked about today. So we need to get together in the next 2 or 3 days. Because if we have to go clear in the next week, I'll have to recapitulate everything. So with that in mind, what's your schedule like tomorrow? I have 10 a.m. or 3 p.m. Okay, great. Now, I just have two more questions before I leave. First of all, if when I come back, I show you a plan that meets your needs in every way, that you're totally comfortable with, is there any reason why we couldn't do business? Okay, great. Now, when we do business, is there any reason why you wouldn't feel totally comfortable with giving me the names of 3 or 4 people that you feel could really benefit from my services in the same way that I'm going to help you? Okay, great. If you could get those together between now and tomorrow, I really appreciate it. Oh, I enjoyed our conversation, Paul. Thank you. Have a great day.